What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Clams. I'm Will. Down here in Key West, it's a little blown out today, so can't get out on the water. It looks like a nice day, but it's just very windy. I was going to go bridge fishing. That's not going to work out. But yesterday was an incredible mail day, and I'm going to show you why. I thought it out, and I'm going to do a recipe with it today. My friend Drew up in Alaska actually mailed me some racks of salmon, and then after a couple of the fish that he cleaned, he scraped the racks for me and sent me down this. He has it's Kenai red salmon, and I just thawed them out, and we're gonna do a salmon rice with them. So let's get cooking. So we're gonna make a really simple broth to actually cook that rice. So I have here two of the salmon racks, and they are gorgeous. Drew froze them right away, vacuum sealed them, and then mailed them out, and they were still frozen solid when they got here. So I appreciate that. Okay, and inside there, we're gonna throw one shallot, skin still on, and then a couple of cloves of garlic, skin still on. And all I'm doing is smashing those. Then the next thing we have is kombu, which is dried kelp, and some bonito flakes, which is dried skipjack tuna. And they shave it down into these little flakes. Now we add a little bit of mirin, which is Japanese cooking wine, and water. Now we're going to bring this up to a boil, then down to a simmer, and we're going to let this go for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And down to a simmer. I'm actually going to move this to the burner behind. If I could get it lit. There we go. And then over here, we're going to bring this up to a boil to make some jammy eggs. So with a rolling boil, I will put my eggs in. And we will take these out at exactly 6.5 minutes, and they'll go directly into an ice bath. In 6.5 minutes, sorry for the fan turning on there, if you're hearing that noise. So we're taking these out and straight into ice water. And those are gonna sit in there for 3 minutes to completely cool down. All right, eggs are cooled down. So one of the easy things to do for peeling eggs is take a spoon, and you get it going just a little bit, and you can slide the spoon right underneath. Like if you're doing deviled eggs or something and you got a lot to peel, it's a pretty good trick. There you go. All right, so now I already have two going from the other day, actually, when I got that salmon and knew what I was going to be making. This is just soy sauce, and all you do is put the egg in to the soy sauce and let it sit overnight, and you give it a flip a couple times, but it cures the egg a little bit on the outside. That yolk is still going to be nice and runny in the middle. It's pretty cool. So that's it. Just in the soy sauce, and every couple hours or so, give it a flip, move it around, and then you'll end up in 24 hours with one of these guys. All right, our stock has been going for an hour and a half. So now I'm going to give it a strain. And I'm only using about 2 cups of this stock right now, but I'm going to hold on to the rest for other things. So I want this to completely cool because we're going to be cooking the rice with it, so I don't want it hot. So I'm going to throw this in the fridge and let it cool down completely before we move forward. Okay, another very important step. I have 1 cup of sushi rice here. And we're gonna rinse that. And one more time. Now, some people rinse until the water is clear, which can take up to 4 times. There we go. We look pretty good. So in my rice cooker, put our rice, and then I have my cooled down stock. Not completely cool, but cooler than it was. So we're gonna do a little bit under 2 cups because I have a cup of rice there. So I'm gonna do about a cup, a little bit more than a cup and a half. And now, what's also going to add moisture to this dish and to the rice while it's cooking, I have my salmon scraps. Now we put the lid on and let it cook. We're gonna let this sit with the lid on just for a couple of minutes, because right now the rice is in its most delicate stage that if you go and start mixing it, you break up the rice. So if you let it sit for about 5 minutes, then you can stir it up. You can do just a little bit of soy sauce, not much, and a little bit of sesame oil, which goes a long way. So again, not much. That's it. Okay, we have our soy sauce cured egg from last night. Look at that, perfect. Now normally in this you would put salmon roe, but what I have here, salmon roe is a little bit hard to get down here, so I have wasabi infused flying fish roe. Put a good scoop of that there. And then the orange fish roe, flying fish roe. Then I have some chives. There you go, pretty simple dish, our salmon rice. Alright, so because this was such kind of a fast recipe, not a lot to it, actually first let's taste it. It's salty in all the right ways. It's a very comforting dish. And believe it or not, that salmon's not dried out. Normally you would do it with a nice thick cut of salmon and put that right in the middle so that you were sure that it wouldn't dry out, and then when it's done you break it up. But because Drew sent me the scraps, that's what I was using. And much to my surprise, they're not dried out. It's pretty nice. Okay, so what I was saying is, because this was a short episode, and I will do this without a mouthful of food, I wanted to go over some of the questions that I get every single video. There seems to be new people and people want to know certain things. So I went through a lot of the comments and kind of figured out what were the most common questions, and I'm going to cover those. So first off, how did I end up in Key West? And that's pretty simple. I feel like it's an answer that a lot of people give. Years ago, I came here on vacation because of a friend that came down here. She posted a picture. This was before Instagram. I must have been on Facebook. And I said, wow, where is that? And she said, oh, Key West. I come here all the time. So I looked it up, and I fish a lot in New York. So when I saw that it was basically the fishing capital of America, I was like, okay, I'm going. So I came down here. I enjoyed how small it was. It's a 2x4 mile island. There's military base on a lot of the islands, so it's even smaller than 2x4. It's very accessible. So at a certain point in my life in New York, I was ready for a change. I was living in the city for, almost 25 years of my life was lived in Manhattan. And I decided to come down here. It was supposed to be for 6 months. I'm on year 7 now, and I split my time between here and New York. Now that leads me to the next question I get a lot when I film in New York. Did you move out of the Keys? Are you coming back to the Keys? Why are you out of the Keys? Guys, I split my time between the two. So all these questions are going to lead into each other. My family is up in New York, so I go and I visit them. As you guys know that watch the channel, Mama Clams, she's up in New York. She's up in that house by herself, so I try to get there as much as possible. My sister is up in Boston. When I lived in New York, I used to visit my mom a lot more, so what I do now is that I will go up for a couple of months at a time and hang out with her. And now one of the other reasons that I go to New York is because that's where my business is. Now this is another question I get asked a lot. Do you have a restaurant? Yes, I do. I was the chef / partner's owner of Greenpoint Fish and Lobster. It is in Brooklyn, New York, in Greenpoint. And it's one of the reasons that I needed a break from the city. It is an all-encompassing job to be a chef and part owner of a place. It's your baby, and it becomes your whole identity. Everything you do is purely for that restaurant, and you start putting very important things aside because you're worried about the success of that restaurant, and that's what it takes. And I'm happy to say the restaurant's going on 10 years. That a large part of that is due to the animal of a partner I have, Vinny. He's been in videos before. I go fishing with him when I'm in New York. The guy is a business monster. He knows what to do. He pushes forward. When everyone else gives up, he does not. And he pushes forward. And without him, I wouldn't even have a restaurant to call home. So I'm very appreciative of my partner, Vinny. And a big part of our success in our 10 years is due to him. A very big part. The other question that I get asked is, why don't I open a restaurant down here? Opening a restaurant down here is actually very, very difficult. You have to win over the locals. That's the only way that you can get in, and then the locals are the one who suggest things to the tourists. Now, as you can imagine, sourcing product in the Keys, not that easy and not that cheap. We are an island in the middle of the ocean. Even though there is a highway and trucks come down, sources are limited, and also because of that, very expensive. So when I have my restaurant in New York, we use the best quality ingredients. We locally source things from farms, from the sea, from anywhere we can get something local, down to our spices, down to our sodas, down to our beer, down to our wine. It's all local, and that's something that you can't do down here. You have to outsource a lot, and it's not my favorite thing to do that. It's very wasteful. So that's a major reason. The other reason is I left New York partly because of the restaurant. It kills you. Greenpoint Fish and Lobster is my second restaurant. My first one was a restaurant called Arancini Bros. It was me and a partner, Dave. We went in knowing nothing about business, nothing about restaurants, and it was good. We had a great product. We got into MSG, Shea Stadium, Yankee Stadium, and it was all Sicilian rice balls, but it was a nightmare. And Dave and I didn't really grasp how to run it correctly, so we were running ourselves ragged. And it was really, really, really difficult. Now, that leads me to my next question that I get asked a lot. How did I get my start in cooking? Short answer is my grandmother. I was very, very close with my grandmother. And she cooked for my very demanding Sicilian grandfather. But she could cook anything, from Russian food to German food to Jewish food to Italian food, anything. She just could cook, and she had the taste. My father had it also. She could taste something and tell you all the ingredients in the dish. My father also could do that, and I inherited that from them, which is a blessing and a curse. Meaning, I don't measure anything, because in my head I can picture exactly how it's going to taste by how much I add. When I got serious about cooking, I got into the fine dining circuit and started at a place called Momofuku. There's a very famous chef, David Chang, and what went on there was a lot of abuse. And I'm not being a snowflake or anything like that. I put in my time. I got beat up like the rest of them, but it was things that would never fly in this world now. Things that were said, things that were done, physical, mental abuse. It was rough, but that was the industry at the time, and you accepted it, and you bonded together with your other line cooks and people learning, because you just got your asses kicked. That's what it was about. And at the end of the day, you put forth a really good service and beautiful food that people respected, and the name of the restaurant had respect on it. Meaning, when people would say, "Where do you work?" and you would say, "Oh, I work at Momofuku," they were very impressed by that. I decided after that to kind of not dumb it down, but kind of not in that realm of fine dining, not that demand where you're working 80 hours a week. I think I was getting paid $13 an hour, no overtime, and it's just, you can barely afford to live. So I kind of went after restaurants that I more enjoyed, and worked at a restaurant called Smith's, which was probably the restaurant I'm most proud of. I worked for Chef Pablo Romero, and he was one of the most talented people that I've ever met in my life. He actually now is in charge of Google's food program, as far as their food waste and food cost and everything like that. The guy is legendary, and he really taught me about food cost. From there, I started working at a place when it first opened called Roberta's, which is a very famous pizza place in Brooklyn, New York, and because I wanted to learn how to make pizza. And after that, I took a little bit of a break from the restaurant scene, and then opened Arancini Brothers, took a break from that, and opened Greenpoint Fish. The restaurant industry is so demanding that you really do lose yourself, and you can get caught up in trying to keep up with the demand of people, of your customer, and you start putting aside your ethics, your love, your dreams, all of those things to make a customer happy so that you get that 5-star review on Yelp. And after a while, you realize that you're kind of selling your soul, and it's not really worth it, where cooking on a much smaller scale for friends and family is so much more rewarding. And it beat me up. It beat me up a lot, and it's one of the reasons I had to step away. Now, with my restaurant, Greenpoint Fish, we originally started, and I kept it simple, and I cooked the food that I wanted to cook. And it's what held us through, to be honest, because it was a very simple menu, and it was just solid food. I was interested in things being cooked correctly. Not fancy, not blow your mind, but if you got something, it was cooked to perfection, and we were really showcasing the ingredients. You get stripped of that a little bit when you're trying to make a buck and keep your head above water. New York City rent, labor costs, all those things start piling on, and it's all you can think about, and you start losing you start losing your ambition and your dream, and it just becomes this competitive, you're working against, even though you have friends that have restaurants, you're working against them because you need their customers to come to your restaurant, and it becomes very cutthroat. And again, it's one of the reasons I had to step away. And that's kind of the long short of it, of why when you guys ask, hey, open a restaurant. No, sir. Not going to happen. And then the other two kind of simple questions. One, about my tattoos. Listen, I started getting tattooed at 14 years old. We're not going into them. There's a lot of them. I think my last tattoo is at 22. I am middle-aged now. I'm well into my 40s. And yeah, they're old news, man. I just, they're there. That's all you need to know. And then the other one, a lot of people are interested in how I met Aaron. Aaron, for those of you that aren't aware, Key West Waterman, he has a YouTube channel. He's who I live with in the Keys. He's my best friend. I just recently got to marry him and Madeline, which was a very exciting moment in my life to get to marry two people that I adore and love. Very, very happy moment. I booked Aaron for a charter. I wanted to catch blackfin tuna. And we went out on the charter, and there was just something about him, the way that he ran the charter, the way that he approached fishing. It was very sensible. It was very kind. He was very kind. He wasn't an angry charter captain. He wasn't yelling at you if fish pulled off or any of that stuff. And so I stuck with him. And then the real bonding moment for me was when I decided to get into free diving. And something you guys also don't know, before I got to the Keys, I didn't know how to swim. I'm one of those people that sinks like a rock. And I just never learned. And I wasn't a beach person. I didn't care. I loved being on the water, but I didn't care to be in it. And when I got down here, it looked like something that was so much fun and so challenging that I wanted to do it. And a lot of the guys down here, man, if you're not diving 70, 80 feet, they don't even want to talk to you, and they especially don't want you on their boat. Aaron took me out, and he brought me to spots. Okay, we're going to 10 feet of water, and that guy knows spots where in 10 feet of water you can shoot a 23-inch black grouper. So that was it. I was hooked. And he didn't push me, and he didn't tell me like, hey, you're pretty bad at this, don't keep going. He helped me, but he waited until I asked the questions that needed to be asked. As far as my setup with my gun, my fins, my wetsuit, everything. I went at it pretty blind, and I didn't even know the questions to ask. So when I finally did and asked him, he was happy to answer. And that was really that was it. And we started bonding and started hanging out and fishing more and more. And the rest is history. And that's it in a nutshell. I think I covered the majority. Those are the main questions that you guys ask. If you have any more, put them in the comments on this video. I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy to get to know you guys more, and you guys get to know me more as the channel grows. Huge thank you for helping build the channel. That has been just amazing. Nothing I've ever expected or thought that I would be doing or even thought I wanted to do, but I get so much enjoyment out of this. It comes down to I love cooking, and I love sharing that with someone without money being involved, meaning I want to cook for you and give it to you to feed you. I don't want you to pay me. And that's where things get clouded and weird and whatever. And this is a much happier place for me as far as cooking goes. So with all that said, I am going to eat this because now it's gotten a bit cold, but that's okay. Still quite delicious. But thank you for listening to some of those long-winded answers there. And hopefully, I might still go today. I might still send it. Even though it's very windy and it's raining a little bit, we might go up and see what's happening on the bridges, because the rain could actually turn the fish on. So, if anything, I'll see you on the bridges in the next episode. All right, guys. Thanks for coming along. See you on the next one.